So I have a story for you this morning, and it's a story about two chefs. Some of you might know I was a cook, a chef in my previous career life. So this is a story about two chefs, two very accomplished French chefs who share a kitchen together. And the two chefs are preparing a very, very important meal for some very, very important people who are coming to visit. And they're running out of time, and they each have one dish left to create each. And they both realize that they need an orange for their dish. One chef is making a sauce, and the other one's making a cake. And they both need an orange, a blood orange, actually. And unfortunately, there's only one orange left in the kitchen. And both of their recipes call for one orange. So the two chefs, knives in hand, start running through the kitchen looking for the orange. And any good chef knows that you don't go running in a kitchen with a knife in your hand, but these two chefs are very activated that day, and they are very frantic because they need their orange, and they go searching for the kitchen, and they both find the orange sitting on the counter. And both of them look at each other, knowing that they both need that orange, and they both lunge towards it. And one of them grabs the orange, and they stand there with their knives in their hands, screaming at each other, saying, "I need that orange!" And they stand there probably for about 10 or 15 minutes arguing over about who gets the orange. And finally, one of them is just so frustrated that he grabs the orange out of the other one's hand, he puts it down on the cutting board, and he takes his knife, cuts it in half, and some of that orange juice starts bleeding out all over the place. And finally he says, "Okay, we'll each get half an orange." So they go to their respective sides and they start to make their recipes. And of course, one of them starts to take the zest off the orange with his peeler. And the other one stands in the corner, juicing the orange. And neither of them has quite enough for what they needed for their recipe. And they figure, well, I'll do it anyway, I'll make it work. But neither of them is truly satisfied. And neither of them gets what they want. And neither of them impresses the dignitaries that they want to impress that day. But at one point, afterwards, after they've made their dishes and they've cleaned up, they go back to the kitchen and they sit down exhausted and frustrated, and one of them looks over, the one who took the zest off the orange, looks over at the other chef's cutting board and sees this sitting on it. And they both look at each other and they just crack up laughing, because they realize that if they had taken the time to stop and to have a calm and rational discussion, and to breathe, and to talk to each other, that they could have both gotten more or less exactly what they needed. Now, the interesting thing about the story of the two chefs, even though they let their tempers to some degree get the best of them, as many good chefs do, they didn't leave the kitchen. They at least both remained in the kitchen together. And in the end, they had a moment together, and a moment of realization. Conflict in the instance of the story with the two chefs was stressful, and nobody got what they wanted, really, when they both could have gotten exactly what they wanted. But they didn't storm off. So I propose this question: what would have happened if those two chefs had taken a moment to breathe and remained curious with one another? What would they have discovered? Perhaps they would have discovered that conflict can be generative, can lead to the creation of something new. Maybe they would have shared a recipe with one another. maybe they would have both gotten exactly what they wanted and more. I think that conflict is creative. When we have conflict with one another, we can learn something about ourselves, what we need. We can learn something about someone else, and in turn, something about the world. It can unleash feelings and needs and desires and understandings that we never even knew were possible. And yes, conflict can be scary. Try to back off from a sense of false urgency all the time when we're experiencing conflict. Take a moment to stop, put your knife down, take a breath. Don't rush towards the orange with your knife in your hand. Take a breath and try to remain curious. In fact, try to receive what's happening as if it were a gift, as if someone had a beautiful wrapped gift to give you. Like there was something wonderful to be uncovered and discovered.